really my great pleasure to introduce you for our inaugural speaker series to our CEO and President of the BlackHawks, John McDonough, who will be interviewed on stage by our very own BABC board member, Bob Ryan. John is a native to Chicago and is in the business of sport and is extremely good at it. Having spent 24 years with the Cubs, John joined the BlackHawks in 2007 as President and CEO. Under his leadership, the BlackHawks have gone on to win the Stanley Cup, not once, not twice, but 3 times, in what Forbes magazine has called the greatest sports business turnaround ever. So, as we wait for this video, well, here we go. Here we have the video. So please, a rapturous welcome and round of applause for John and his video. Thank you.
Choose to get in front, the rep change, or you can choose to stand still and be left behind.
I have great confidence that we are going to restore and reinvigorate this great franchise. To all of you Blackhawk fans that are out there, it's time to come back. You're going to be very proud of the direction that we're headed. Yeah, you can definitely see the ring. Everybody can see the ring. I think we've been fortunate enough to win 3. I think those of us who have won the Stanley Cup or have the Stanley Cup rings, we don't wear them often, so it's better to share it than to wear it. So I'll pass it on, and I'll pass it on to everybody out here for you to look at.
Very nice, very nice. The subject today is
Now you got to pass it on.
um,
That has a security chip in it, Bob.
So as I was saying, the subject today is the business of sport. But there's been a couple of things in the news lately that I'd like to just mention. First of all, the draft coming to Chicago, and secondly, in the paper today, I don't know if you noticed, but the first Spanish-speaking broadcast of the game. What does that mean to Chicago? What does that mean to the Hawks?
Well, first of all, to address the draft, it's another showcase jewel event for the city of Chicago. It's an interesting event. Draft is what you're taking a look at your future, and we've been so fortunate in our organization with the tremendous drafts that we've had. But that's going to play a huge role in the salary cap era. Drafting and developing is of paramount importance, so that will be in June of 2017. And Spanish radio was really an initiative that was driven by our Executive Vice President, Jay Blunt. We recognize that it's a very large growing population. There's great interest in the Chicago BlackHawks. It's probably should have been something that we should have done a long time ago, but through Jay's vision, we got that started, and it should be exciting.
Great. Full disclosure, I was born in Montreal. And was a Montreal Canadiens fan. Actually, my wife, Vicki, who's here today, is born in Belleville, which is Bobby Hull and Andrew Shaw's hometown. However, I happened to be at the first game in the United Center when Kane and Taves played together, and I remember going, oh my God, this is something very special. And I've been a Hawks fan ever since, but don't tell my dad. Business of sport. Let's talk about your career first, John. Could you share with us your career journey, starting with young kid growing up in Chicago? I'm particularly I think we're all interested in how did you get into baseball, and for heaven's sake, how did you switch from baseball to hockey?
Well, I'm not sure how compelling the story is. I grew up on the northwest side of Chicago, the son of a state police officer, ultimately worked for the railroad, blue-collar family. Went to Notre Dame High School here in Niles, Illinois. Honesty compels me to tell you that my class rank was 311th out of 356th. I don't know what happened to the 45 behind me. But enjoyed my time at Notre Dame. Now combine that with the fact, bad student, bad athlete. So there was not a great recipe for any of this to happen. But kind of a classic underdog. And I'd love to tell you that when I went on to college at St. Mary's University in Minnesota, after I had been rejected by Notre Dame, Georgetown, Marquette, Loyola, the rest of them, academically and athletically, it didn't get much better. But there was somebody, a gentleman by the name of Brother Raymond Long, that made kind of a big difference in my life. And he said to me after my junior year, he said, Mac, you've got a very narrow skill set. It was one of the greatest days of my life because somebody told me I had a skill set, despite the fact that it was narrow. He said, you're pretty good on your feet, you're fearless, and it appears as if you like to lead. Because in all of the sports and all of the groups that I was in on intramural teams, I managed and coached every one, and even after graduating. So I like to orchestrate and be kind of the impresario of things. And then once I got out of college, I wrote a letter to every team in the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, and Major League Baseball. And it was a personal letter. It took me an entire summer. And my girlfriend at the time, and now wife of 38 years, Karen, we spent the entire year doing it. And there was an epiphany when I received a rejection letter from the Pittsburgh Pirates after they had received my resume. And it just had the sense that they knew that I was out there. I wound up in soccer for 3 years. We won the Soccer Bowl in 1981, the Chicago Sting, by beating the New York Cosmos in Toronto. And I got a call from a gentleman from the Chicago Cubs by the name of Jim Finks, who
asked if I would be interested in joining them as, I believe at the time, Director of Sales and Marketing in 1983, and a lot of good things happened in my career during that period of time. Unfortunately, in those 24 years, we did not win the World Series. The whole Cubs thing is seismic. Our games and many of the games that we would play would be like baseball's version of General Hospital. It would be the only sport that would be played during the day. It would be in front of 80 million people. And huge characters. Ryne Sandberg, and Rick Sutcliffe, and Greg Maddux, and Andre Dawson, and Harry Carey, and on and on and on. So when I came to the BlackHawks in 2007, people would say, have you ever been around anything like this before? And Wrigley Field was filled to capacity every single day despite team performance. But it was a phone call that came from a representative of Rocky Wirtz, who, if you take a look at what you see up here, the credit goes to Rocky Wirtz, who, when Rocky took over, he decided to go a different way. It was going to be a different playbook, a different script, a new way, and a new day. And when Rocky offered me the position to come to the BlackHawks, I have two sisters, no brothers, but I've got a half a dozen friends of mine that I call them brothers. And when I told them that I was being offered the job as president of the Chicago Blackhawks, I was president of the Cubs at the time, I asked their opinion. And for any of you people in the room that have ever heard when you ask a question and you're kind of pining for an answer and you hear deafening silence on the other end, that's what I heard until the profanity started. And they said, are you out of your mind? But every time they said, no, I don't think you should, I think that there was an incentive to try and play a micro-fractional role in bringing something back that had the potential really to take the city by storm.
That had been fabulous at one time. And obviously you've done a fabulous job. I would imagine that the management and leadership that you need in baseball is very different than hockey. One sport is dynamic, fast-paced, and the other's played on ice.
You've really done your homework.
Tell us, John, what's the same and what's different?
There's no rainouts or extra innings in hockey for openers. I think baseball is very episodic. You play 162 games and your body gets conditioned, even starting in spring training in February 15th. Your body gets conditioned to playing every game. Hockey's actually harder, that when you play on Sunday, then you play again on Wednesday, and then you play again on Friday. We're just conditioned to do it. From a standpoint of similarities, I think the caliber of athlete, professional athlete, is amazing. I think you're seeing now kind of a cultural change in baseball. I think about 35 to 40% of baseball is now Hispanic. But to see how it has evolved and the ESPNification of the game and the baseball tonight and how it's now becoming such an international sport is great for baseball. And it was a very, very, very difficult decision. But when I came over to the BlackHawks and recognized the urgency, this was not, I was going to assess the landscape and get back to Rocky in a year or two. This has to change, if you will, on the fly. This has to change fast. And I remember when I sat down and had the interview with Rocky, there were some conditions. First condition, all games had to be televised. He was completely on board with that. We had to bring some players back that, in order for us to market and sell and promote our future, there had to be a link, there had to be a bridge to the past. And, the empowerment to make decisions. And when I came on board, the message was really simple. The expectations are going to be higher. The pace is going to be swifter. And I'm going to need to have everybody on board. Now, everybody in this room studies body language for a living. So when I said to the staff, I need everybody on board, I could tell by their body language and their eyes, a good percentage of them said, I'm out. I'm out. This isn't going to be for me. And not trying to leapfrog your question, but when someone new comes into an organization and you talk about culture, changing the culture, that's kind of a new age, interesting buzz phrase in business and in sports, changing the culture. It's a monster to change the culture, because when you walk into a new culture, this is the guy coming in or the woman coming in to run this business. You have to come to the realization that on day one, about 80% of the people in that room do not want you to succeed. It's a cold-blooded, sobering truth that when you walk in there, they're accustomed to doing things a certain way and they don't want you to succeed. The difference is your name is on it now. So my name was on the franchise and had to make some very unpopular decisions, unpopular people, and you can make all the changes you want, which we did. I think we have 217 employees within our organization, including our scouts. I think there's less than a dozen that are still there. So you can get phase one correct to make the changes. But that's about 30% of it. The real important part is you better get it right on the hiring part. And I'm a big believer that hiring is the most important and most underrated executive skill there is. And whatever legacy I have with the Cubs and with the BlackHawks, I am most proud of the people that I've hired that sit over here. These are Stanley Cup champions. These are the people that have made this happen. I'm not going to go name by name, but I would like to ask them to please stand up as a group. The Chicago BlackHawks. Brandon Faber, Jay Blunt, Stan Bowman, Jill Smith, Jim Bear, and Chris Warner. They are the heartbeat of our organization. But bringing them in, and in some instances putting them in different positions, they recognized what was at stake, and I needed them to hire well. And as long as there was a system and a process, and I talk about Jay and Stan all the time, we have a good system and a process in making decisions. We don't get them all right. But if you have that, and the emphasis is to have a young, dynamic, enthusiastic organization, which we have loaded with millennials that want to be part of something that has never been done before, I think you have an opportunity to succeed.
John, thank you. You were talking about your great team over here, but there's a lot more. We tend to see the players and the coaches. Tell us about the back room. Tell us about the Hawks organization beyond the players.
You even said the organization part right, Bob. I'm very impressed. Well, we call it the front office, some call it the back room. People will say that the BlackHawks are the model franchise, or it's the Stepford franchise where every day is sunny and people get along. But we battle like crazy. We battle like brothers and sisters. I want all of these people to succeed. I want them to be wildly successful. But I like an organization that is comfortably uncomfortable. I like people to have the ability to express their opinion, to have the autonomy to do what they need to do every single day to get better. I do like to challenge people, but I need them to be innovative. I need them to be creative. I need them to be proactive. I need them to deal with issues head on. And the residue of that sometimes, Bob, can be very interesting. And when you are president of an organization and you hire great people who have achieved great things, you sit at your desk sometime and say, boy, I used to get invited to a lot of these meetings that I don't get invited to anymore. And they don't need my input. And the hardest single thing I've had to do since I've joined the BlackHawks after being in the middle of the scrum for 24 years with the Cubs, or 23 of those 24 in the middle of it. You hire these great people, and the single most difficult thing I've had to do was do this, was to step back many times wanting to get involved and share an opinion they know what the expectations are, but I get a front row seat to watch them succeed, and I really enjoy it. It's not been easy to do, but when we have a good system in place, as we talk about, our hockey operations and our business operations are collaborative. There is no artificial hierarchy where Stan Bowman feels that he has a group that is superior to Jay Blanc in the business operation. They weigh the same. There's mutual respect. That's why you see so many of our players who we have humanized, and they participate in so many things. If there's anything that I could say about this group, as a collective group of employees, they get it. They understand the big picture.
The strategy or the mission of the Hawks is one goal. I think we get that from a hockey context. That's a is that a business strategy or is that a marketing strategy? You're going to say both.
No, I'm not going to say both. It's a business strategy that, first of all, it comes from a sense for all of us in the organization. The thread that weaves through our organization is humility, albeit a humble swagger that kind of goes through our organization, primarily with our players, that they've achieved a lot and you've got to have a little bit of confidence, but a large dose of humility, I think, goes a long way. So when we talked about, when I got there early on, we had ad agencies coming in and they had these themes, and we kind of broke down one day and just said, look, let's be candid with each other. What are we trying to say? What we're trying to say, after being off the map for decades and decades and decades, we have to be transparent about this. We have one goal. Now that one goal has many ripples. That one goal has many tentacles. It's to be the best team on the ice, to be a playoff team every year, which we have for the seven years in a row, and hopefully 8. We take a look at the Detroit Red Wings. If they make the playoffs this year, this is their 25th in a row. But at every level of our organization, from the experience of the United Center to the team that is on the ice, to the best radio broadcast with John Weideman and Troy Murray, and on television with Pat Foley and Eddie Olczyk and Steve Conroy and others. But to have high, lofty, grandiose expectations and to try to make sure that they're met every single day. So the goal is also bundled in humility, but we talk about there's no entitlement. There's no entitlement. We're not entitled to one more win, one more fan, one more viewer, one more listener, one more anything. It's a very hungry, humble, young organization that years ago we ripped out the rear view mirror. We're not good celebrators. There's many things we're not good at it. That's a table over here that's not content. We're not great celebrators, and what you see on the ice on the nights that we've won the Stanley Cup, that's fun, but that's not really who we are. The day after we win, it's on to the next mission.
How was your performance measured? Tell us about a performance appraisal with Rocky.
His performance appraisal with me?
Yes.
I would probably say Rocky's feedback has been positive, and just as an aside on Rocky, I think Rocky, from a relationship standpoint, is the undisputed best relationship person I've ever seen. Incredible business acumen, a teacher, a leader, a mentor, a friend. But I would say the grade that I would give myself over the last 8.5 years would be a rousing incomplete. We're not done. And based on what we've done, we don't get caught up in the sellouts and the rest of it. It's about what's in front of us. Really good organizations, your premier organizations, are judged over decades and decades and decades, not in increments of 7 or 8 years. So the sustainability is important. So the grades that I would give these ladies and gentlemen over here might be a little bit different than the grade that Rocky would give me. The grade, if I were Rocky, that he would give me, I would assume would be a well-deserved incomplete.
We give you an A+. In fact, one of the things about sport is that there's a lot of elitism. And you talked about humility, and I see that as part of the Hawks organization. I look at Jonathan Tays and actually in my business, we talk a lot about leadership, and we hold him out as one of the examples, that last guy off the ice. Talk about leadership. Talk about the expectations you have of the players in terms of values and so on.
Well, if you talk about Jonathan Taylor, they say some leaders are born, some leaders are made. I think he's both. I think Johnny was born to be a leader. He was the captain of our team, I believe, at 19 years old. And people would always say, I think, that at the time people were concerned of, is he too young? Is he going to? I think people are ready for a certain responsibility. They can handle it. As far as leadership, we have the premier coach in the National Hockey League, and Joel Quenneville. The relationship that Joel has with Stan Bowman, our general manager, is really remarkable. Two completely different, contrasting personalities, and they work very, very well together. And Joel, if you're asking about the team, I think Joel as a coach is less as more. He sends messages in different ways. He doesn't need to be bombastic or volcanic, despite what you see on the bench. I think players know that if their ice time is cut or they're a healthy scratch, that's a pretty strong message that he's not pleased with their performance. But he's very positive. He is the ultimate winner. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame as soon as he retires. I think he's the right coach for the right team at the right time for us. And he was part of that group when Jay Blunt came, our executive VP of business operations, was with me for the Cubs for 20-some years. We made a change on our general manager, Al Talon, replaced him with Stan Bowman. And with both of these gentlemen, you talk about seizing an opportunity. Seizing an opportunity. You saw these numbers up here. It's about the players. It's about what happens on the ice. That's what everybody sees. But off the ice, the magic of humanizing our players, and what you see sometimes with these heart-tugging vignettes that Jay and his people produce, and the way Stan and Jay get along, it's very rewarding for me to see them succeed individually and collectively.
And my next question is about high performers. You have amazing people on the team. How do you keep stretching them, and how do you make them feel like there's still another phase that we need to go?
Are we talking about on the ice or off? Or
Off the ice.
Off the ice, okay. Well, that's a good question. One of the tenets that I talk about all the time is recognize and reward achievement. Jay and Stan are both tired of hearing me say that, but recognizing and rewarding achievement. The fastest way that DK can set an organization, if you have achievers that are going above and beyond plus, that are doing remarkable things, and they're not recognized, whether that is through the respect of having a conversation with them and complimenting on them how they do the work, whether it's title, whether it's compensation, but over a period of time, you want to have a positive environment. And in order to do that, if you've got people that are achieving at very high levels, and time goes on and they're not recognized, they're going to move away. So we try to do that on a regular basis, sit down, find out who these people are collectively that are achievers, and the individual part will come within time.
My last question, and then we're going to ask the audience for questions, and this wasn't on the list, and that's a personal question. When we coach leaders, we talk about the fact that it can't all be business. You've got to have a whole life. You've got to have a family. I just would like to know, what do you do? What other things do you do, John? What hobbies do you have? Or is it all hockey, all business?
No, it's not all hockey and all business. I've been married for 38 years. I've got three beautiful children. One 6-month-old granddaughter, Riley, recently. Have a robust group of friends that I spend a lot of time with. Tonight's going to be another night with the group. I love to work out. I love to walk. 3 knee surgeries that prevented me from playing racquetball and running. But I think that balance is really, really important. You need to get away. Fortunately, we haven't going to the Western Conference Finals 5 of the last 7 years and winning 3 Stanley Cups. We haven't had much time off. But you do need to decompress, and I tell these people all of the time, this is very unconventional. I hope it's the right thing to do. But I'm not really concerned about what time they get to the 2016, what time you get to the office, or what time you leave. I get all of their effort at night. I get it on weekends. They're committed to it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For all of our young employees, we give them memberships to the West Loop Athletic Club. We let them work out for 2 hours over lunch. I think fitness does matter, or making an attempt at it. So we try to put them in a healthy environment so they can achieve. And I ask them one thing. And it's not tethered to when they get there. It's not tethered to when they leave. I ask them to be great at their jobs. Be great at what you do. Make sure the communication is fluid. But as you get older, at 62, as you get older, you learn more about finesse. And you learn more about kindness. And you learn more about respect. Shortly after I came to the BlackHawks, there was an article in Sports Illustrated. It was about the BlackHawks, but part of it was about me coming over from the Cubs, and there was a depiction in there as to what my management style was like. And I believe the quote was, "a bulldozer on steroids." So at one point in my career, I think that was true. Jay Blount lived that era and is still here. is still here. But I'm very, very fortunate to have a wonderful family. My mother and father have passed away. They would have loved this. They were part of the Cubs. My 3 children grew up at Wrigley Field, much like the children of people sitting at that table are now growing up at the United Center. And I feel that I'm very, very, very lucky. And I'm incredibly lucky to address this group today. So thank you for having me.
We've got a couple of microphones floating around. John, who has a question? Chris Birchie, over there.
The organization's had remarkable success developing players, drafting, and all that. Do you employ any Moneyball type analytics in hockey as they've done in baseball?
We have a very strong analytics group that are part of the organization. I think we're at the forefront of that. Is that the end game with scouts? No, but it's an important part of the individuals that we have do this, that it's yet another observation, a critical observation that we'd be foolish not to look at. And I think the fact that Stan comes from a finance background, a computer science background, and he recognizes the importance of analytics, that I believe we are at the forefront. We don't talk about it much, and we're not going to talk about it much. The coaches are involved. The management group is involved. And then when you impart that to the coaches, it's up to them to distill that and decide how much of that we want to use. I would say that it's very, very fluid. I think it's had an incredible impact on our franchise, but I would say we have a very, very strong analytics group. But we've decided 4 or 5 years ago, this isn't something that we really want to spend a lot of time talking about.
Yes,
Here.
right here. Thanks, Emma.
So, John, how far internationally do you feel like the BlackHawks brand can be extended beyond, obviously, the luxury of the players taking the cup around to their local towns in Europe and elsewhere? How far do you think it can extend internationally, maybe coupled with that, the sport of hockey?
Those discussions have taken place. Those are probably more league-wide. We played a few years ago. We played an exhibition game in Switzerland and a regular season game in Finland, and the games were sold out. This was before we had won any cups, and they were wildly popular. And I think it probably would be a question maybe better suited for Stan as to where he thinks the game could go internationally. But you take a look at now, our roster, we have a pretty good emphasis of Swedes, Czechs, we have Russian players. So I think it really is a global world game that has all the potential in the world to expand. I think Thomas Fleischmann, is he from Germany, Stan? Ehrhoff, I'm sorry.
Hi, John, how are you? Thanks for doing this. You mentioned that hiring is one of the, if not the most important decision that you have to make when you bring people into the organization. Are there any specific questions that you ask in an interview process or specific characteristics you may look for that would show who a person is more than just on their resume?
That's a good question. What I look for in a candidate, and maybe by the time I get to them, they've nailed it down they boiled it down to the last 2 or 3. But I like someone that comes in and they tell me that they want to complement and enhance what we have going on in our organization. What I'm not a fan of is somebody coming in who individually might be very skilled, and they tell me where they want to be in 3 to 5 years. I look for somebody that wants to be part of something bigger than they are, to play a role in making it better. So those are the things. Now, I also like enthusiasm in an interview. I like passion. I like to hear people who tell me they want the job. I've had people tell me that if you hire me, this is going to be the best decision you've ever made. I like confidence. I really do. But also confidence within the system. It can't be about them. But when they join the Chicago Blackhawks organization, there's a great sense of pride. We have within our organization, we probably have 30, 40 millennials that haven't even turned 30 that have 3 Stanley Cup rings already. And we have something now that's kind of a wonderful dilemma. We have a very young group of management people, and we have a next wave, almost like we do with Rockford. We have a next wave of young achievers that right now you can almost hear the sound of them hitting their head. There's just no place for them to go because over the last 4 years, our turnover has been 4%. So that's good and that's healthy, but it also comes from the premium and the emphasis and the importance at our place of hiring.
Hi, John. Do the Blackhawks have an emphasis on diversity?
Absolutely. We just were in the process right now of building a 2-sheet rink right near the United Center, and it's primarily going to be a community rink that we want to make sure that we can teach all children, inner city children, learn more about the game, learn more to participate, and it's a very important initiative for us going forward. We recently partnered with, it's a beautiful story about a Leo High School on the south side that we've kind of adopted. And many of those young kids work for the Chicago Blackhawks. Some of them might have great career opportunities with the Blackhawks, but We brought the Stanley Cup there. I was out there. Brent Seabrook was out there. We filmed a commercial. And it's just kind of the start of where we need to be. But diversity plays a huge role in our organization.
Good afternoon, John. I'm curious, how do you, talk to us about, a little bit about how you motivate the players, given that obviously they're very well financially set. You've had an incredible, history of wins here. How do you keep them, at their peak and really wanting to win?
Bob just said that's my boss. So I'm going to be very respectful, sir, in how I answer this question. Probably the best way that I motivate our players is to give them space. I don't spend a lot of time with our players. I believe in boundaries. The players play for Joel. Joel reports to Stan. We have an assistant general manager layer. We have a senior vice president of hockey operations layer. And I think I try to be friendly and cordial and a good listener. They know that I pull for them. But there's not a lot of interaction with me. Generally, if there's interaction with me, that's not a good sign. But I empower Stan and the coaches and the assistant general manager and others to do that. But we do send messages through the system on comportment, on dealing with the media, making sure that they understand that every single encounter makes a huge impression. Every time they're around somebody, because what has exploded within the BlackHawks organization has caught many people off guard. All of a sudden, being off the radar for so long, now are you on the same level as the Cubs or the Bears? I don't know, that's for other people, but our players have an incredibly high profile. We have a full-time media trainer. We have a full-time mental skills coach. We work on every aspect of their organization. But I'm proud of how they are as gentlemen. I turn it over to Stan and to Joel and Norm McIver and Al McIsaac and others as to how their performance and how they're evaluated on the ice. I give them my opinion. I give Stan my opinion on a regular basis. I'm not sure he really listens to it, let's be honest. But I give him my opinion, and it's the way the process should be. I shouldn't be weighing in on that part of the business.
So I'm curious, at what stage does a player get to meet with you? What have they done?
Some of that might be obvious. But when I do travel with the team, which is not often, we might meet somewhere in the hotel, or we might have a conversation, or I do get a chance to meet their parents. But there's a great deal of respect for authority, but there certainly have been instances where there have been things that have gotten to me, that we have to make sometimes tough, painful decisions or address things that are not fun. And recognizing that for any president and CEO, what ultimately my role is to absorb all of the blame, and distribute and disseminate all of the accolades and the praise. That's my role. So there's not a lot of interaction with the players. I don't evaluate their performance. God help us all if we get to that. But I'm so proud of the people that do.
One more question, then we're going to have some lunch.
Yeah, on the topic you were touching on is, could you give us some insights into crisis management that you dealt with this summer about, Patrick Kane? Not the substance of it, but the organization crisis management aspect. And real quick, did HDTV save the NHL, in your opinion?
Did HDTV
High definition television
save the NHL? Well, I would say no. I don't think I think it's great. it's a wonderful new dimension for the NHL. But one of the things that I would love to see our league institute is, if you are an attendee at one of our games at the United Center, or for that matter, any sport, the most uninformed consumer of your sport are the people that are in attendance at the game or at the arena. They don't get the information that people on television or radio and the internet. We, as an industry, need to solve that. I hope the BlackHawks are the ones that solve that, because the people in the arena should be as informed, if not more, than any other consumers of your product. As for the Patrick Kane situation, we dealt with that. We had a lot of people involved. We had a lot of opinions. It was a very, very delicate situation. We care for Patrick a great deal. He's a wonderful young man, and we knew that this was a hypersensitive issue. Going to Notre Dame and facing the media was not fun that day, but it was something that was necessary. It was part of the process. Really getting any deeper into that, I think, is unfair to the situation, but that is part of being a president, and part of being a CEO, is dealing with these situations head on. I think the reward of Patrick Kane's maturation going forward, we're seeing that this year he's playing at a MVP caliber performance. I hope it continues, and I hope his growth is as strong off the ice as it is on.
John, this is terrific. Thank you very much from everybody here. But just before we give you a round of applause, a couple things. One is I'm especially thankful for you to bring your team here, and I know that you wouldn't be here. Jillian didn't tell you to be here, so that we appreciate very much. I appreciate meeting Stan. I've probably been to 2 or 3 or maybe 400 games in the Montreal Forum at 50 cents a game. And I see his dad play, or not play, but coach. And the job that he does every year, we have to deal with attrition. He has forced attrition of 1/3, losing 1/3 of his team every time they win the cup, that he has to replace. Just a terrific team, and I know that it probably goes for that does go for your entire team. The other thing I'll say is you probably never get tired of hearing congratulations. What a terrific job you've done. You and your team, I think, as I know hockey, I can say that after losing 1/3 of the team twice in the last, or 3 times in the last 6 years, this is the best team that I've ever seen on the ice. This today is the best team. Congratulations.
Well, I hope you're right.
Right now?